those first few weeks, I mean, when you really realize late at night where you're like, "Oh, I'm alone for the first time in a long time."
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, they say it's going through a divorce for a reason. There is no going around it, and believe me, I tried the first few months. I really did. I think I tried to eat enough edibles to go around my divorce, but no matter what, those nighttime hours comes and you are reminded like, "Man, here I am on my own again," and it's not a
Mm-hmm.
bad thing, but I am going to need to figure out who I am.
Yeah.
I have found my divorce to be as awakening as like my first big mushroom trip as like a Ram Dass guy. I always wanted like that big trip, and I was lucky. I had one big trip and I never really had to explore much after that because it broke the veil of a lot of things for me. But I have felt that this time has been as awakening as that. And like I felt that the suffering and the pain of a divorce is so unique, and who knows how many times that is going to present itself in your life, that if you numb out for it, you might miss a lot of these things that you are supposed to learn. And I didn't want to miss that. I did want
Oh,
to sit
wow.
in the magnitude of it. I wanted it to not be real so badly, and then I just got into a place where I wanted it to be as real as it could.
Dan LaMORTE is an amazing comedian, and today we talk about the state of mentorship in the comedy world. We also talked about how Dan's whole life has changed multiple times. He tried stand-up for the first time after a sudden injury ended his collegiate baseball career. Years later, he lost 180 pounds, and he's recently divorced. We talked about it all. Dan also tracked his relationship to his confidence, why he loves running, what it means to unattach from attachments, why trying to fit in is a lost cause. I really cherish his perspective on challenges and pain. We just ran a half marathon together, and we talked about that too. I'm so glad Dan's my friend now. Here's my conversation with Dan LaMORTE.
I think it's the more you break it, the stronger it gets.
Is that
Yeah.
how you feel about life?
Yes. Yeah. This is good. I'm in my broken period.
Okay, let's just dive right in. The more you break it, the stronger you get. I mean, I don't disagree theoretically with like challenges do make us like the strongest version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I do agree. I do. I always have felt that in my life, on the other side of challenges has kind of been the rewarding periods, or at least I allow myself to not give in to like the brokenness. I feel like when I really give in to the broken, I don't know, like I can't even remember a time of life when I have like even how just everything that I have currently in my life, my career, running, it's just all come from like bad situations that then grow into something good.
The moment something goes wrong,
Yeah.
are you really quick and good about the dialogue you have with yourself?
I do think so. I think I've grown to get to that point. And there's like this quote that I love that is like, can you sit in the presence of suffering without bringing on more suffering?
Oh,
And that's really important to me because I'm like, yeah, this might be bad, but let's not make it worse. Let's just sit with what is currently here and really not completely snowball.
yeah. Like let's have this this be the starting line. Let's not go even further back.
Exactly. Because why?
Yeah.
Something bad already happened. Why are we going to make it worse?
Yeah, I love that. And it reminds me even of, I was just saying hi to Rich in the hallway, and I was telling him that you were coming in, and I was telling him how very last minute I called you to come out to LA to run this race this weekend.
Yeah.
And I was telling him that I think I'm getting better about, because, we had a big celebrity that was supposed to run and raise all this money. And like, I feel like in the past I would have like sat in the echo of the effect of something not going my way, like whether it's like freaking out or like whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm getting better at just, pivoting. Like basically when some new information comes in or something happens, to being like, okay, now we turn, but we're still moving forward. And I think that's like a newer thing for me to be like more in shape
Yeah, and it's funny because this weekend was kind of the same thing for me. Like you had to pivot from
Oh,
something, and I'm in a period of like, personal life loss and pain. And I'm just trying to break out of my shell of being very structured and manicured with what I do and being
right.
like, you know what? She seems like a great person. This seems like a great opportunity. Why wouldn't I book a flight the day before and come out? Like that's not who I am. And the last few months of my life have very much been embracing like just seeing where it could go, like, and yesterday was one of the most uplifting days I've had in so long. I still feel like a natural high from it. It's crazy.
Yeah. We had so much
It was
fun.
great.
Yeah,
It
we
was
had
like the most fun day.
everyone was so happy. And it really was such an unlikely rascal crew. We all ran the LA half marathon together. And I think all of us have a busy enough lives full of enough people that we didn't have to do any of that. And so when people who don't have to do something do it, it's almost like this like vibrant, electric, amazing thing because it was that for everybody.
Yeah, I felt like everyone was, and it was really, really were rascals. Like everyone was different. Everyone brought something different to the table. Although me and Pat, two comedians, which was fun. Like I don't often run with other comedians. It's not exactly a career that brings on a health forward life. So that was really cool. But I felt like everyone was in good spirits. And we even like saw so many moments of other racers on the course, especially when we first remember there was like that woman
The
who was
woman.
like, this is like, I forgot exactly how she phrased it, but saying like she had never remembered being as happy as she was in that moment. And that even just being around that is quite powerful. I find that with running and races, that was the first road race I had ever done, but with ultra marathons and stuff, I never come away feeling less than. I always feel the collective energy and consciousness of those kinds of people is really uplifting.
Yeah. What would be fun to learn from you is like genuinely what it's like to be in the world that you've been in for a really long time.
Yeah.
And, and I only like have tasted the tiniest bits of through like these UCB classes and friends, but I don't know at all like what the general sense of like vibe, support, energy, positivity at all is in your world. And it would just be so, wonderful to hear from you what your experience has been like.
Yeah, so I guess I've been a stand-up comedian since I'm 19. I believe I started right when I turned 19 years old. I'm 31 now, so coming up on like 11, 12 years in comedy. It has been some of the most rewarding and challenging times of my life, I think, and I've really had to reshape my identity to comedy and what it means to me. Probably reinvented it 3 or 4 times just because so I started stand up. I was a college athlete, had a scholarship to play baseball in college. It was everything that I wanted. I loved playing baseball. It was, kind of the life that I had to live. My, parents were very encouraging of that, and my whole high school career, all that stuff. And then I go to college and my first ever game, like my arm rips in half. I blow out my elbow. It really was a fascinating kind of experience to be like everything you worked for immediately ripped away the first opportunity it could have happened. And I end up getting, reconstructive arm surgery. It doesn't take, the scholarship is gone. And I drop out of like a 4-year school and go to a junior college. And in that period, I really get into stand-up comedy. Like while I still have the mechanical arm brace on, I'm like at my first open mic. My dad drives me. I'm a teenager. And it was a very conscious decision because I knew that the depression that could come with losing something as like monumental as your collegiate career could really destroy a person. So I needed to take all of that work of, 2-a-day practices and put it into something else. And all of my friends would listen to music before games. I loved listening to stand up. So it was just in my head. I didn't have a ton of friends growing up because it was just how it was, but I was a class clown. I knew how to make people laugh. And that was an emotion that I didn't know how to read people that well, but I knew if you could make people laugh, like everyone knows what that is. If someone's laughing, they're having a good time. So that was something that always meant a lot to me. So I was just like, I'll do stand-up comedy. And it was terrible the first open mic. And then I, for some reason, had this inclination to go back and do another one a few weeks later. And that one, I really lucked out and met a guy who's still a close friend of mine. And I guess if I was to say any mentor, it's like this guy, his name's Vince Chang. He's not a big comedian. He's like, he just dabbles in it these days. He does some acting and stuff, but like he saw me at this open mic as a teenager, and everyone there is like 30, 40-year-old dudes, whatever. And my dad was with me, and he kind of came up to my dad after, and he was like, I don't want to step on your shoes here, but if your son really wants to take the time in his life to dedicate to this, I think you should allow him, however that looks, because I see something here that seems to be different than I see in other people. And like that was the first, like, and probably one of the only times I remember a comedian like having that kind of confidence in me. And that was enough to convince me to just jump all into it.
Wow. And I mean, I want to go more into like that exact moment. So it's late at night, it's after the show. Where are we?
Yeah, it's a club that is no longer around called the Eastville Comedy Club, which has become another club now. My dad used to own a deli in the city, and I was working with him because I wasn't really going to school a ton. So he came with me after, must have been like a 6 o'clock at night open mic, and we left the deli, took the train up there. And it was like your classic grimy comedy club. But from what I had heard about stand-up, I knew that's what it was. It wasn't like bells and whistles. It was kind of like basements of New York City. I remember I was a different person then. I had on blue jeans and a flannel. I was coming from the college baseball world. We loved country music, and I would wear shirts that had deers on them. I've never been hunting a day in my life. I don't know what I was doing, but like stand-up then just presented itself, and I was like, here I could kind of find whatever is inside of me, whatever, you know, and your voice. And I remember like when you start stand-up as a teenager, everyone tells you, you know, it's going to take like 10 years to find your voice. You won't understand it. And, you know, you start having success when you're young. You're like, they don't know what they're talking about. Look at me. I didn't know who I was. Like, even now, I still learn who I am through comedy.
Tell me more about that.
Like, because you're not going to be who you are as a teenager your whole life, which is also very interesting because a lot of times when you start a profession, people will always see you as how they first remember you. So like there are some people who I don't think I will ever have their respect because they remember me when I was like a dumb kid. Like I was more confident at 19 in my comedy world than I was in any other part. I'm not nearly as confident as a comedian now that I was when I was 19. You have that teenage confidence. And it was like, I didn't know who I was. I thought I looked like Larry the Cable Guy. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And but now like, it's hard to say, right? Because I was obsessed with comedy, so I knew the structure of jokes, which I'm very happy that obsession was there because I was so anal about comedy. But now I'm more about what does this do for people. When I was younger, I didn't care what my comedy did, but now I like doing stuff that people could listen to and like it could connect with them in a way that's deeper than just material, right? So like growing up, you know, a misfit, not fitting in, you know, being diagnosed with what was once Asperger's, ASD, autism spectrum disorder, the words changed through the years, but like doing jokes about that, which I only opened up about maybe 6 or 7 years ago, brought in this whole audience of people that like parents who bring their kids who are on the spectrum to see me on the road, right? So I'll have like a 12-year-old in the audience with their 2 parents, and some comedians hate when kids are in the crowd, but I see that and I'm like, this is what I was looking for. Like this, I was in search of providing material for people who necessarily didn't feel that they had material. And that again is like this regrowth of a person, like it from the flannel wearing teenager to now this guy who's going up there and really bearing his soul about what it was like as a kid and not fitting in and what it's even like as an adult. And now finding this other island of misfits instead of finding the comedian's misfits. Like you grow apart from your friends in comedy. There's a lot of like, you know, everyone's competing.
Well, that's what I want to hear more about too.
Yeah.
Because it's different than it is in sports.
So different.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know both.
Yeah, it's the complete opposite, which kind of plays into like the always finding these new versions of yourself. I was starting to feel really let down by stand-up and just not mentally satisfied. I had gained a lot of weight.
This is the 6 or 7 years ago turning point?
The turning point was probably 8 years ago at this point. So when I was 23, I weighed 354 pounds. That's when I kind of made the decision to change things. And that weight, that had a lot to do with stand-up. It really did. Like not only telling yourself you're funnier if you're heavier, but just when I think back on it, it's like I didn't cure the depression that I had from losing athletics with stand-up. I cured it enough to find like a new passion, but I think I manifested it in the eating and in going on the road. You know, you don't have a lot of money, so you're eating fast food and stuff when you're younger. And people who are on the spectrum do something called masking, which is like when you kind of try to fit in. You do your best version of like studying the people around you and kind of acting like them. And my therapist often tells me that like she thinks maybe my excessive weight was kind of my mask. Like instead of masking, I say I was fat suiting. But like that is true. Like I kind of knew that people would see a heavyset guy instead of who I actually was, this weird guy who didn't really have the confidence to fit in. And that kind of protected me. The weight was such a protection in who I actually am. I didn't want people to know who I actually was at that point.
It's so interesting how it like presents itself in different like career paths. Like that is such a like comedy specific, you know, persona to take on, if you will, you know, or image. Yeah, it's just such an interesting thing because I can only imagine that you probably actually saw like benefit in it for a little while, which is like the case with like any like path we could take in these siloed worlds, right? Like in running, it's actually like not, it's like being really small, you know, it takes you down a path of like you appear more serious and strong and crazy until it doesn't work anymore, right? You were doing your best to like adapt to like really difficult circumstances you were in. And you said you had a depression. Do you think that was like about the loss of your physical capability in sport, or was it a bigger thing that like you just processing your experience on this planet, or that you have predisposition? Like what was the depression that you felt like you were responding to? Just out of curiosity.
So I did struggle with depression when I was like in high school and stuff, which I think stemmed from not fitting in. But that period of depression, I do really think came from the injury, because that 1 year of college baseball was the most friends I ever made. Like, because when you have your college team, it's like this built-in network of friends. Like every baseball player roomed together. So like we had 4 roommates in our dorms. They were all baseball players. We traveled together. We went out to dinner every night together. So I had this group of friends that I had never felt closer to. It was so unique for me because it was not something I was used to. And then it was pulled away so quickly.
Yeah.
And that really did spike some kind of depression. And then on top of that, like I did struggle with my weight when I was younger, when I was a kid. I only started to lose weight when the college scouts were like, we like you, but you're too heavy. I mean, they would use words that were a lot less kinder than that back then, but like they would tell me that you really needed to get in the gym. So I did. And I worked so hard my sophomore and junior year to lose weight, to get in shape. So I felt like 2 simultaneous things were taken away, this athletic career I worked for and these friendships that I worked for. And it was like, you know, you don't have the perspective of time when you're 18 years old. So I felt like my whole life was working towards this goal, and then it was gone. So there was a real period of, I guess, grief maybe is even a better word than the depression, because I was really grieving what I thought was my future being taken away.
100%. And just a few minutes ago, you were saying that those communities are quite different, like the competitive energy, also the camaraderie of like this baseball team, and then this comedy world that you like dove headfirst into, you know? And so what a shock to also adjust to like what it is like to be in each of those worlds.
Yes, I agree. Because one is like, how do we win together as a team? And then you go very much to the individual.
Yeah. And tell me about what it's like to be in the individual.
It's overwhelming because you start to think that you form these bonds with people, but then at the same time, you do have it in the back of your head. And it's not even like anxiety. It's just, you know that they would do whatever it takes to get ahead of you, because it's the nature of the job. You do need to be the funniest one. You need to be the best one. It's not like someone wants to help you be better, because then they might get the TV show. They might get the pilot. They might get the Tonight Show set, whatever it is. So like, I think I compared it once, like in the ultra running world, you put out a big goal and everyone is like, what can I do to help you get to this goal? And in comedy, you put out a goal and everyone goes, well, how could I do that before he does? You know, I kind of feel like that's how it is. And there are people who have good friends and they bring each other up. Someone gets a TV show and sometimes they'll staff the writer room with 3 people they came up with. But I do think that's more rare then I do think the individual, and to even go further on it, it's because the current state of social media, like the whole reels and needing the following and constantly posting content, that just makes us go more internal and think more about ourselves, I think.
Yeah. And there's no like Olympics, like, like, because at least in running, we can say there are these, or at least in like sports that have championships, you can say like there's this goal that we all have, that there's at least 3 spots on the US Olympic team or on any other team,
Yeah.
And so in theory, 2 of us could go and have the same chance in the same race, which affects the possibility to like train together and see that as like a tides raising all ships. But in comedy, like there really is, no coming together in an obvious way.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason to talk about team unless you want to, I guess. There's no teams.
No, there is not. There's not even like shows that really put together teams of comedians. Like even just think in my head, the TV show I remember coming up was Last Comic Standing. And even the name of that, who is the last comic standing?
Right.
It's not who are the last comics standing. It's who was the best one of this whole show.
Yeah. It's just baked into the data. Do you know what I mean? It's not even a choice. It just is what it is.
It is what it is. And you really kind of just have to embrace it. And in the idea of like, some people are lucky enough to maybe have mentors in comedy, but I think for the most part, true comedy and the really best comedians present their unique perspective and who they are better than anybody else. So a mentor doesn't necessarily help that, because you need to be able to scrap whatever it is inside of you that's going to make you connect with an audience of people. And I think you have to learn that on your own.
And how did you learn?
Failing over and over again. I think I put myself on the road at a very young age. I remember like I was living at my parents' house in New Jersey. I was probably 19 or 20, and I would just, any club on the road that would even agree to give me, on a road club, there's usually 3 sets. There's the host of the show who goes up first and kind of does the cold open. There's the feature act that does like 20 to 30 in the middle. And then there's the headliner. So when you're younger, you're just trying to get those hosting or feature roles. So if any club would be like, we'd have you, I'd pack up the car and I would just go drive down there and do it. And it was just trial by fire. And I got lucky. I was able to like, the biggest club in the city is called the Comedy Cellar. It's like known as the Mecca of stand-up comedy, arguably the best comedy club in the world. And I probably started working there, when I was 20 or 21 years old, relatively quickly. And instead of feeling positive about that, I felt like a target was put on my back pretty quickly with like the OGs who were there, the older guys who had been at the Cellar for 20, 30 years. They're kind of like, who is this teenager, this young kid that's coming into the club? Like, because I came out of nowhere. Literally, I wasn't like around the scene long enough for any of them to know me that well. I was a ticket salesman in Times Square selling tickets during the day to try to get stage time at night. So like I really wasn't a face that they would have known. So instead of feeling embraced, I felt very much alienated. And as an adult, I really try to sit with those times and wonder if it was true. And I do think it's a bit of genuine truth to it. But then I've also always had confidence issues because of my weight as a kid. Like I really think I had a lot of confidence issues about not feeling like I fit in. So you mix those two together and it's just a really alone feeling. And I ended up just not ever feeling comfortable at the Comedy Cellar in those years. And that ended up to them stopping using me at a point, which then coincides with the weight loss. Like some other things went wrong in my life, and then I wasn't working at the Cellar anymore. And I had this realization that, whoa, if comedy doesn't work out and I have all of these eggs in this basket, like, look at my body, look what I've done to it. I was having real health issues. Like I had a doctor tell me I had a fatty liver when I was 23 years old. Like I'm not one of these guys who pushes weight loss on anybody. I simply had to do it because I had health concerns. So I had that real like moment where I had to just have the realization of being like, you need to change because you can't rely on comedy for all of these feelings. You can't rely on career success to make you feel good. You need to be able to make yourself feel good.
But that realization is a really mature one to have without somebody sitting you down and guiding you there. Like I am so impressed that it was you who had that conversation with you.
Yeah, I have a good family as well. Like my parents are very like, if I were to label anybody as an actual mentor in my life, it would be my family as a collective, not just dad, not just mom. It would be, grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles. It's very big New Jersey Italian family, and everyone calls you on your issues, like, and not in a mean way, but like if they're there for you, how in the good times, the bad times. And my dad, when I really started to consider losing the weight, this was before Ozempic. They had a surgery called Obalon, which is where you like swallow balloons and then they blow them up when they're in your stomach. So it like changes the size of your stomach. And I had the appointment to like meet with the doctor and talk about it. And he kind of was like, listen, if this is the route you want to go, sure. But he's like, you're 23. You were a college athlete not that long ago. What if you gave it like one real shot on your own to lose the weight? So I did have his voice kind of there, like reminding me that what I was and what I could do, which was very important.
For sure. Well, that's amazing. And it also sounds like it was important because whether it was imagined or real, the feeling of not having that kind of support in the world you were desperately trying to be a part of fully must have been really hard. One of my favorite parts about trail running is my connection to the actual trail. No matter what headspace and body space I wake up in, when I lace up my shoes and go out my door onto the trails just up the road, I know the run is going to take me where I'm meant to be. To carry myself to a view is one of the most satisfying ways to start a day, and being outside also helps tremendously with my creativity. I've been running in Merrell's new Agility Peak 6. The Float Pro foam cushioning gives me a gentle ride. The Flex Connect technology shifts with me in the terrain so I have no fear of falling. The Vibram Mega Grip traction locks me in on technical terrain so I can focus on nothing but the run. And what am I thinking about on the run these days? I've been writing my new book, and when I'm running alone especially, I use my time to reset and reflect on big thoughts that are eventually going to end up on the page. The Agility Peak 6 is also available in Gore-Tex, and it's available on Merrell.com starting February 6th, along with many other shoes and apparel I love. Merrell has been a global leader on the trail for over 40 years, innovating and crafting footwear designed for adventures of all speeds and sizes. You guys are in luck because the offer is amazing. For a limited time, we're partnering with Merrell to give you 25% off your first purchase using the code MentorBuffet25 when you check out on Merrell.com. That's MentorBuffet25 when you check out on Merrell.com. Merrell believes in sharing the power of outside with everyone, and so do I. So let's get outside, get out on the trails, and let's get back to the episode. What do you remember about the influences around you spending those days selling tickets and then spending those nights on stage or watching other people? Like, what were you observing?
Well, it's interesting because you observe these people that were like idols of you that you've looked up to for a long time, and you kind of see I say it like you see how the sausage is made, and like it kind of ruins it for some people. And you see the people that are behind the stage, and like you see what they put on stage, and then you see what they're doing off stage, the drinking, the partying, the drugs, which, listen, I've enjoyed at different parts of my life. It's almost impossible not to in New York City. LA has a bit more of like a sober culture around the arts and some more health forward movements. But New York is very much like, the Cellar does shows until I still sometimes am on stage as late at 2:15 in the morning. It's not like a lot of sober people are up at 2:15 in the morning, comedian or audience member. So there's this real negativity, and I'm not putting down any of these people. They're doing what they have to do to get by, but I fell into that trap a lot of drinking a lot at points in my life and stuff because it was what I saw people who were bigger than me doing. But yeah, I don't know. There are some comedians who truly love other comedians and that degenerate lifestyle, but I just didn't want that to be me. I used to tell people I didn't want to end up like, what do you call it? Like a jaded, 30, 40-year-old divorced man. And I ended up divorced anyway, but I'm not jaded about it in the slightest. Like, it is what it is. That part was inevitable for me, I guess. But I still don't think I'm those people. Like, I've really tried to stay a positive person, which is hard because God forbid you're earnest around comedians. You get your ass lit up. They don't want to hear positive, earnest shit.
I'm so interested in that because like I feel like I've been like peripherally around comedians for my whole career, but I've been allowed to be earnest because I'm an athlete.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, well, you're the athlete. So like, yeah, go chase the dream, and because I have collaborators, I have people I've acted in movies with, I've made projects, like, so I'm in this, but they don't see me as, I'm not held to those standards, even though I'm very much in the comedy world in my own little way.
Yes.
Right. I'm not a stand-up or anything, but I would say in the like comedy writing space or directing, but I'm not held to those standards. And I can't imagine, I don't even know what I would do if I wasn't allowed to be earnest, because earnesty is the truth. Like let's talk about what earnesty is.
For me, earnesty is like, if you are having a bad day or you're going through a hard time and you show up to these people that you've known for a few years, you should be allowed to be vocal about it and try to seek help, or like try to just seek maybe a hand on the shoulder that says it's going to be okay. But that's not again, this is all coming from my perspective of it just wasn't that. Like you get roasted pretty quickly in comedy. When you're sitting at the table of comedians, it's not like you're sitting there going, how could we improve ourselves? You're making fun of everyone. And I love roasting as much as anybody. But at the same time, like I do want to know how people are doing. Because for me, I can't be a good comedian if I'm not going through a good time in life. Like I can't fake it. I know a lot of people who can. I cannot. Like now in the months right after my marriage ended, I didn't fully take time away from the stage, but in comparison to the rest of my career, 100%. I did more stand-up during the pandemic when the world was shut down on trains and on rooftops and on sidewalks than I did in the months after my divorce, because I knew that audience wasn't going to get what I wanted to present to them, because I was really working through a lot. And I don't like to work through it all on stage. I like to make jokes about it when I'm healed, but if it comes from a place that isn't healed, it could come off really poorly.
I can't agree more. And people like, I wrote this book, Bravey, and everyone was like, were you like totally processing like while writing? I was like, no, bitch. Yeah. Like I had to like go to therapy, and like it took like a whole, like I had to get out, because mine was a lot about this post-like depression. It was like, I was like, I almost died. Do you think I'm writing about almost dying while I'm almost dying? Like absolutely not. Yeah. And same with this next book that I'm writing. We're like, covering a lot of tough stuff that has happened since writing the other book. It's like, but I needed to I need to take care of myself when I need help.
I think that's the healthy way to do it.
And how can you be, because as a comedian, as a writer in general, we're writers, right? Is you have to be smarter than the thing you're writing, right? Smarter than the characters, smarter than you need to be able to write. You have to have more wisdom than them, or at least as much.
I agree. And I think the audience that is receiving it does want the perspective of someone who is healed.
I think you're right.
They don't want to see someone going through like the real pain of it. I mean, they're okay with the pain, but they want to feel like maybe they're through the pain.
I don't know that people are too uncomfortable to handle if you aren't through the pain. I think it's more that the art form is one, like a book. To me, a book and like do you call it a joke? What do you call like the pieces you write? What do
Jokes, bits.
Okay, yeah,
chunks.
The chunks. Okay. I didn't want to like call it something where you're like, we don't even call it that.
When there's multiple bits, it's a chunk.
It's a chunk.
Yeah, a chunk.
That's an official term.
Yeah, like I'll say like I'm working on a chunk about this, because I have like 4 jokes about it.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was gonna say is like, I don't even know that people are like, don't show me your messy stuff. I think it's that the art form is like one that is it's a thoughtful style. It's like a journey that you create and then you put it out in the world. There's a journey you're taking people on. And so if the journey hasn't concluded, you need to kind of go through that journey so that you can present your art. You know what I mean? It's an art form. It's not a journal entry, which could kind of trail off. Like a book, it's not a social media post that you could delete later or edit. It's a book. Yeah. You need to edit it. You need to think about every word, and that I think is part of like the integrity of the artist, I don't know that people like don't want it. It's just that that's not, I don't know if that's, maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't even know if what I'm saying is correct. I just don't.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, because life is painful. So they definitely don't mind hearing about the pain, but I do think they like a glimmer of hope in it.
Yeah, or a take on it that you can only have with perspective, right?
Yeah.
If you're processing it, you're not saying something about it. You're going through like a kind of a mind exercise.
And I have found sometimes when comedians are really in the midst of their pain and they go on stage and they try to work on it, like pain can really come off as like anger very quickly. And people
Oh,
don't want to see the anger because anger isn't funny. Because anytime we've been yelled at, it's not like we're loving it. You know, there's some anger, there's a scary. So like if you see
yeah.
someone who kind of is like, oh, he's going through it up there. Like I've heard audiences say that before. They've walked out and I've heard them be like, say about a certain comedian who was on the show, they're like, he really seemed like he was going
Going
through
through.
it. And they don't say it in a positive way.
Yeah. Well, because that makes me think that you're basically saying, hey, you need to take care of your audience and a bit more than they're taking care of you, right? Like you don't write a book so that someone can come like coddle you. It's like the book is supposed to communicate to them so that they get something out of it. They understand you. And with your bits and your chunks and your jokes, it's like it's for them. It's not for you to get something from them, because
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like you would be needing something from them if you're
I don't ever want to feel like I do need their laughter 100%, but I do think there is a real responsibility as a comedian to not burden the audience.
That's a good word for it. Here's just a little observation I've been making in the world. I live in LA. I see a lot of trends. I've been noticing a lot of tooth gems. And I also noticed that people aren't drinking as much. Like you'll go to a restaurant and people are drinking non-alcoholic cocktails, or if you're like me, you're drinking Go Brewing, the best NA beer option out there. Now, I'm not saying that I never drink. I'm just saying that I'm not drinking right now and that I'm opting for Go Brewing over every other drink on the menu. And the can art is amazing. Like, it's so cute. Go Brewing has a beer club where they launch a new beer every month. So every month you can open your fridge and go on a brand new adventure. Go to gobrewing.com/Alexi50 for 50% off your first beer club subscription with code Alexi50. You just mentioned that you couldn't have made these jokes about the big, changes in your life recently, divorce and otherwise, while you were going through it. And yeah, can you tell me a little bit about who and what the world was like and how they were supportive of you or not during that time?
Even though comedy is my workplace and these are my coworkers, I feel like it's a much deeper connection with them than your genuine, like, oh, this woman who's at the desk next to me in the office, because you're doing a lot more than you would be doing in an office with them. Sometimes you're traveling, you're drinking, you're doing all of these things, about them and what they're going through. And so I was married to another comedian.
Mm-hmm.
We were a very, public couple. We toured together, we traveled together, we worked together. So when the divorce happened and people knew about it relatively quickly because I disappeared, pretty much I would call it a disappearance of sorts. And my wife's perspective online really shifted. So like people did know that something had happened because also we had tour dates together that were suddenly gone and they were just one person's tour dates. And I was genuinely shocked at how many people that I felt I had been there through their hard times, whether it was getting clean, getting sober, going through their own divorces, or just people I've considered friends for the last decade who never even sent a text message, never called. If they did, maybe it was one time and then never again. And that really, it both hurt, but was also very eye-opening because it reaffirmed to me that I am not just a comedian. Like I value my life as an athlete and a human being as much as the comedian side. And even though it really hurt me and it made me want to go deeper into the parts of me that made me feel good.
Wow, yeah. I can really relate to that too. And it's weird, or at least I find it very weird when an experience like that taps you back into something that is maybe from the past, and you realize it should be in the present too. And you have to accept that it doesn't mean you're going backwards. It means you're just reconnecting with a part of you that was more dormant or less forefronted.
That's a really nice way to put it. I like that.
Well, it's helpful because otherwise you think, is this like escapism? Is it me going back in time? Like what? It seems negative if it's not that. or not negative, but it seems like you're rewinding or starting over when like we're only ever moving forward.
Yeah, and I like that because sometimes I think we do. Sometimes there are parts of us that we really value, but maybe they're not as big as other parts.
For
And
sure.
then when you combine so forcefully with someone, in no one's fault, some parts of us do get closed off.
100%.
Like I used to, it's a benign example, but I used to love meditating. It was something that I prided myself on and did every day. And it was not my fault. It was probably, it was my fault and would not be my wife's fault. But just with the timing of bringing on a relationship, you don't have the time for all these other things. So I lost my meditation practice. I stopped reading as much as I did. There was just certain parts of me that I closed off because there's only so much time in the day as an entertainer and someone who's putting in long runs that other parts have to get sacrificed. And I have now gone so deep into those again and have been reminded how important they were to me, and that I wasn't doing it was no benefit to myself or my relationship because I would have shown up as a better person. But it's kind of a jump of topic, but for me in relationships, confidence is a really big issue. I feel like I still love as if I'm this heavy set guy who's worried the person's going to leave me. So if I don't go all in on them, I'm not going to have that. I still don't have the confidence that comes with a changing of body and a changing of habits. So I'm always the one who's very quick to shut off sides of myself.
Yeah. Wow. And now you're taking this time to like, you have to kind of be right next to yourself today. Do you know what I mean? You're
Those
not
first few weeks, I mean, when you really realize late at night where you're like, oh, I'm alone for the first time in a long time. It's hard. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, they say it's going through a divorce for a reason. There is no going around it. And believe me, I tried the first few months. I really did. I think I tried to eat enough edibles to go around my divorce. But no matter what, those nighttime hours comes and you are reminded, like, man, here I am on my own again. And it's not a bad thing, but I am going to need to figure out who I am.
Yeah.
Or at least put in the work to do that and manicure the parts of me that I do think who I am.
Yeah. And how is that going?
It has been, I said this to someone last night and it sounds very silly, but I have found my divorce to be as awakening as like my first big mushroom trip as like a Ram Dass guy. You know, I always wanted like that big trip and I was lucky. I had one big trip and I never really had to explore much after that because it broke the veil of a lot of things for me. But I have felt that this time has been as awakening as that. And like I'd say about a month and a half now, I've given up weed completely, which was a very big deal for me. I've been a stoner most of my life. That's how I lost the weight. I was a stoned runner. I loved it. It was my favorite thing. And I found myself, and not beating myself up in my journal, but I just kept seeing on a nightly basis that it would come up that I didn't want this to be a part of my life anymore because I felt that the suffering and the pain of a divorce is so unique, and who knows how many times that is going to present itself in your life, that if you numb out for it, you might miss a lot of these things that you are supposed to learn, and I didn't want to miss that. I did want to sit in the magnitude of it.
That's gonna make me cry, is to think that it's like a really big opportunity to learn. And if you engage, and especially when it is the most uncomfortable, that is actually it's not a simulation, it's a real thing, but that's the thing that would be so hard to simulate unless it was real.
Yeah, I wanted it to not be real so badly. And then I just got into a place where I wanted it to be as real as it could. And it's weird to say I was lucky. It was not luck, but it was not just so like maybe 2 weeks after I had found out that my wife was leaving the marriage, my grandfather, who, if I was to say any role model in my life, he would have been the guy. He was anything you would want in a male role model: strong, open. He was in touch with his emotions. He liked art, but at the same time, he would rip phone books in half into like he was a strong man, but he valued his family and he loved us so deeply. And he got very sick. And I had never lost a I'm very lucky. All 4 of my grandparents were still alive, and he got very sick 2 weeks after, and not the kind of sickness you recover from. So here I am having to move out of my apartment back to my hometown. And then my grandfather gets sick. And instead of being like, woe is me, I had this opportunity to sit with this man that I love for the last month of his life. And it was as valuable, I think, to the divorce and the healing as anything. Like, I find myself getting emotional even thinking about it, because I actually I mean what I said. I was lucky because he was the kind of man that every single grandchild, every single one of his children, he had 10 grandchildren, 5 kids, every aunt, uncle, there wasn't a relative who knew him who didn't fly in to be with him in those last weeks of his life. Like, he was at his home in a hospital bed and very cognizant. So not only was he passing away around all his family, but they all knew what I was going through. Like, what a blessing that in my hardest time, I was surrounded by every single relative, and I did not feel like a single one of them didn't have my back. So it made up for feeling like comedy wasn't there for me, because the people who were there, it's such an emotional thing for me, because it was so much at once that I almost felt I wasn't able to process it all, and it still comes to me on like a daily basis. But that month was as enlightening as any. Like, a man who or anyone who knows that they are dying, the love that they have and the strength that they have, it's really unmatched. I never had conversations like that with someone who, like, he just called me in and he was like, I am dying, and I just want you to know that family. He knew I was going through the divorce, and he was like, family is everything. And that was what he would always say, and it never meant anything. I thought it was just a thing that he said. But then when you see this person dying and they're surrounded by all of their family, all of their kids, then it hits you like, this is what he means. It doesn't matter what TV shows I may or may not have done, what clubs I've headlined, that's not going to be there at the end. Who gives a shit? Like, it's the people who love you. And he was surrounded by so much love. He never seemed scared. He just seemed to embrace it. And I know that was part him, but it was part of what was around him as well.
Yeah, wow. And you were experiencing it in real time at the same time that he was.
Yeah.
Needing it for your own reasons, but feeling it the same is really, really mind-blowing.
It almost felt as if he knew, like, he knew he was helping me, and having all those people around. He was a really special guy, and I was very thankful to have those moments with him.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thank you for telling me about that. That seems so, I'm so thankful to hear that exists. Like, that's really, I think part of why I want to have this show is because, like, not everybody like experiences it, but just to hear that that's possible, and to hear that, because you can cultivate it, you could cultivate it even if it's not a nuclear family. You can feel that with people. Obviously, I'm sure it's very, very powerful with that.
Yeah.
But you hope that people can kind of hear the message and then cultivate with themselves that sense that is what's the most important, and you can reach for it and you can provide it for other people and be there. I'm sure you're also there for people in the way that they weren't there for you. Even you answering my phone call, like, I'm not your family. I'm not even close with you. Yeah. It's like, but that feels like a way of seeing the world a little differently too. And the way people should be there for each other is in that way.
Yeah. Who I was before the divorce and before the loss of him is not who I am now. It sounds so silly to say, but I feel completely changed. When you're 31 and you go through a divorce, obviously, you have guys like Al Pacino popping out kids till they're 80, but something like this does in your head make you think, am I going to be someone who doesn't have a family one day?
Right.
And it was still nice to see that he touched enough people that were outside of his family that they showed up for him. And it made me really want to show up for people a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful, and it's that's really apparent, and I'm convinced. You know what I mean? I'm convinced that is like such the most important thing. I have a running coach for the first time in 7 years, and for the first time in a long time, I have a goal in mind. I want to run a personal best in the marathon. I have the Greek record in the 10K, and I want it in the marathon too. Training on this level takes thoughtfulness, patience, and especially recovery because I'm balancing so much in my big, busy life. Therabody is my teammate in recovery. It's essential to the consistency that's helping me get closer to my goals, which I've begun saying out loud. I've relied on Therabody for years, and I especially love how their products combine multiple therapies into one device. The JetBoots Pro Plus combine compression, vibration, and LED. The Theragun Mini Plus, it's so portable I don't go anywhere without it. It does massage and heat. These are science-backed devices that actually work. They've done wonders for me. Therabody is part of my daily routine, morning, night, and wherever else I feel like it. If recovery is something you know you should be taking more seriously, visit therabody.com and use code MENTORBUFFET at checkout for 15% off one product of your choice. Your body and goals will thank you. Terms and conditions apply. Now it's time to get back to the episode. And I imagine too, like with your career in comedy, like I don't know, I had this thought that like if you get in touch with like your worst fear or the thing that really drives you, the fear underneath the fear, you know, which maybe we don't quite get in touch with until it gets really, really, really crazy or bad, or when we're at the rock bottom of some experience.
Yeah.
But I think once we can like kind of solve for it or face it, then we become really fearless. And it seems like some of what you've shared with me today is like what drove you to pursue different things, to even do to your body what you have, you know, experienced, was driven by like a lot of like fear response to the childhood experiences and wanting acceptance and all this. And then to finally have this ultimate acceptance and love, right, means that you don't have to be afraid anymore, I would think, of all those things. And maybe then, not that you need it to have like a performance benefit, but maybe then you're like actually fearless in a way you didn't even know before on stage, in your future life on stage. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
I haven't even thought of it like that. That's
because if you don't need it,
reassuring to hear.
Well, I would hope if you don't need it anymore, but you still want it, and you don't need it for the comfort because it hasn't even been there for you for that anyway.
Yeah.
And you don't need it for the performances, and you don't need it for all these things that you know, you want the laughs, but if you don't need them to feel the ultimate love and acceptance, then it's kind of like game on. This could get kind of fun, I would hope.
I do think so, because there was a real part of me that, as someone who does like to work with spirituality and the ego and stuff like that, it is hard to be someone like who does stand up and who does ultra marathons, because it's so big, both of them, that it's almost like, is this a fully ego-driven thing? But then you start to realize, the older you get and the more these, you know, situations present themselves, that the person who is responding to each situation is what it's actually all about. Like the 19-year-old who took up stand-up because he lost baseball, or the guy who found ultra running because he wanted to better his life and change the medical diagnosis of the fatty liver. Like that is what it's about. Mm-hmm. Like that to me is now what I've realized, like, because I don't care if I become the most famous comedian or not. I don't care if I'm able to pull off a successful ultra running career or if I'm not. I like showing up, and I like digging deeper into just learning like who I can be, I guess.
Well, and look at you. You're moving to Leadville. Yeah. You are moving to Leadville. Everybody know this. Dan is moving to Leadville.
Maybe the weirdest decision I've made.
He's moving to Leadville for 3 months to train for the Leadville 100. He's going to hang out with Courtney because I'm going to introduce them.
Oh, that would be so cool.
And you're going to run the Leadville 100, the arguably one of the hardest ultra marathons in the world, at 13,000 feet altitude minimum. That's the start. And you're going to have a blast. But what's so cool is you were in such a state that you signed up for the hardest one.
Uh-huh.
And you're not only signed up, you're like training for it. And I think what's the coolest part about it is like, one, like giving yourself the chance and being like, yeah, this is a part of me that is important and I'm going to go express. And also like in earnesty, try. That's kind of what it was when you were like, I'm going to Leadville. I was like, this is an earnest athlete. You know, you're not just like jokingly doing it, you're doing it.
Because I have set the goal in the past and maybe not gone all in like I should have. And I don't know what it is about me, but when things go wrong, they go as wrong as they can. And I've had some really scary situations in 100-milers before. And I felt this was a unique opportunity to really not only go all in on the goal, but to just, well, also I felt if I didn't have something like that on the books after the divorce, I would have been floundering a bit more.
It's helpful to have a goal like that is healthy, you know, in the big scheme of things. Yeah. Some people be like 100 miles not healthy, but it's a positive thing, you know?
Yeah. And it excites me because again, it's way out of my comfort zone. I've never done a race outside of New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania. I stay around where I'm at, and nothing about what's happened in the past would lead anybody to believe I could do this. Like if we're looking from an actual data perspective of what's happened in my past races. And there was something about, I don't like the sentence. Someone's like, oh, you're swinging back on life because it hit you hard. But like, I don't really look at it that way anymore because I do find it all like, I don't find it like life hit me hard. I just feel like it's providing the exact blueprint that I needed to kind of explore these versions of myself. Like I do think we could kind of manifest some things to happen. And it was a very contentious point of my relationship that this other comedian who I was with looked at my running as being like, why are you taking all of this time away from stand-up? You're not a runner. You are a comedian. And I kept putting all this time into running. And I really would tell people, I am a runner and a comedian. I am both things. And then life was like, well, okay, let's remove the marriage and give you the full chance to go all in on this. If you're saying you're a runner, here you go. You're a runner. So I feel like I kind of made it happen in a weird way.
Yeah. And if I can say two things, like screw people who, I'm sorry, I don't like it. I don't like it when people don't understand that we're whole people. And if something's making you feel whole and it requires that a pie be broken up into parts, that is so much better than you being this like broken, exhausted, you know, single track pie, if that's not who you are.
Exactly.
Like, and this is like, my whole life is like that kind of voice. The second thing is that you have a voice in your head because you said it. The voice that said, oh, you're swinging back on life. I was like, ooh, sorry, Dan. That's not a voice I recognize. Even the tone, blah, blah, blah. I was like, that is your adversarial voice in your head that feels like it's coming from the comedy world. Like I was like, oh, those are those people in comedy that you're talking about. You like know how they would talk to you in any choice you make because you've probably like, you know what they would say, even if they haven't said it. And it's that voice.
Yes.
And I just wanted to point it out because it feels like it's like you could like write the dialogue for them and imitate them in any scenario. And I wonder how that's going to like, you know, like that must be something you're answering to all the time because you know what they would say.
Well, absolutely. And my last 100-miler went so poorly, I ended up in the ICU for 4 days. It's not like I returned to the comedy world without hearing about that nonstop. Like, are you finally going to quit doing this? Are you finally going to accept that you are not a runner? Like, why are you doing this? You keep ending up in the hospital. So like, it wasn't just a voice. It was very much prominent there. And something I got made fun of for, which is fine. Like, obviously, when you put out a big goal and it goes poorly, there's going to be some negative voices to it. But so, yeah, those voices are there.
Yeah, but their voices they're there because they want to bury possibility. They're uncomfortable. People are uncomfortable by the idea that someone could make more possible true. And so if you happen to succeed in making it possible, then that's responsibility on them that they need to go chase whatever it is that they're interested in, even if it's not running. And I think that when you struggle or when you fail or end up in the ICU, for them, that's like such a relief. And they want to double down on how awesome that is because they want it to be impossible because they don't want to be responsible for chasing their own shit, you know?
That is true.
Like, that's like, because otherwise, why do that to somebody unless you were uncomfortable and unless you were celebrating the impossibility? And I think that's just so cowardly and lame. And also so obvious. Like to me, like I can just like see that when people do that stuff, I'm like, because I just have seen it so much that I can just like, they're like cliches to me. And you deserve like so many different voices than that, you know? And I think that's what the athletic world obviously brings you. The ultra world is so different than that. So loving, you know?
I want to see everyone be all that they can. Like when I see a comedian chase a goal outside of comedy, I am so pumped for them because regardless of what I believe in spiritual, what comes after this life, what I do know is right now we have this one to live. Why would you want to pigeonhole yourself is one thing. Like when you're a kid, you like doing all these different activities and like, why should you not explore them?
Yeah.
It's so much fun. And it also makes you feel like a kid again sometimes to be like, to take on something that you might be uncomfortable with and something new. It feels so, it's very exciting to me. I love possibility. I like that. It makes me feel good.
That's awesome. I feel the same way. And I think if people would give themselves the chance to like submit to that kind of maybe those little tickles in their mind and to embrace that possibility is good and giving yourself a chance is a privilege and a gift. And it's an even bigger privilege and a gift not knowing how it's going to turn out. It's cooler that you gave yourself the chance because you didn't know how it was going to turn out. And I really have been thinking a lot about this lately. And I think we've had conversations with other guests that have reminded me of this, of like the ultimate power is being able to go try something that may go any which way.
Absolutely. That's how I looked at like if I don't explore my weight loss and trying to become healthier, like we're not having this conversation, you know, like it's just, I'm not coming out to LA to do the half marathon. Like these are all opportunities that unfolded because I allowed them to unfold.
Yeah.
I think life can naturally unfold into a lot of beautiful places, but humans do a really good job of like trying to stop the unfold.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. And not like jumping out of their own little their circle to like, because you are concentric circles with so many things, but you have to kind of like tow yourself, you know, you kind of, I don't know, there's like a visual in my head about it all. And yeah, when we were running, I was like, oh, like we all like just get along. Like we're all just chill. Everyone belongs, like everyone belongs. No one would have met if not for this like start line, which was like this cause, this moment, this whatever. But like once we got over that start line, it was like just so chill, so awesome. Pat and I had to like run and pee in like a random bush in the middle of Hollywood. And it like was not weird. Like, cause you make such great friends through running too. So anyway, it was just, I don't need to get into it.
Yeah. I mean, me and Pat like talked about like deeper things than I do with most people when we meet. You know, we were talking about relationships and dating and the mistakes that we've both made and seem to find ourselves in again. And that ability to connect with people, like you do need to give yourself the chance to do it.
100%.
Like I felt like I made like 6 great friends this weekend. You know, everyone that I encountered, I was like, it was so reassuring to just know that I am this multifaceted person. Yeah. Because I want multifaceted people in my life.
Yeah. And when you have friends that are multifaceted, like when you have a friend where like, you know, I don't know everything about your world. You don't know everything about mine, but we have like, you know, we have things in common. What's cool about it is then when you do share the things that are going well, are challenging you, I'm not an expert in that. And so like whatever you say, hopefully if we were in the exact same worlds, hopefully I would do the very same thing. But I do think there's something powerful about meeting people where like, if you say it was like your show last night was like an amazing day, it was amazing and everything, I would be like, oh my God, what's true for you is true for me, for you. Like it's true. And so I think also there's like different kind of support you can give to people when like there's not so much context that they know, but like there's no judgment. There shouldn't ever be. There's even less when like I just know you as Dan, really.
Yeah.
Like I don't know more about your world than you do. And so what you say, I trust.
Yeah, the
You
best
know?
we could do for people is just to give them the space to be themselves, you know? I think that's so powerful. Just like someone comes to you and dumps something on you and you just go, yeah, I hear you. And I give you the space to be here with me like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't try to change anyone. I don't try to guide them on their path, but I want them to know that I am here for them if they
Yeah,
need it.
that's rad. Well, is there anyone that you particularly remember that you learned from, even if you never met them, even if they weren't your formal mentor, as like a performer or as a human?
Yeah, there was a comedian named Mitch Hedberg who I'd never had the chance to meet. He had passed away before I'd ever done stand up. He was like this very abstract, stonery, one-liner kind of guy. But the reason not only did I find him to be hysterical, but he wouldn't look at the audience. He would look at the ground. Sometimes he would turn his back on them and stare at the wall, and he would still perform. And I just remember seeing this man who was so comfortable in not giving in to the stereotype of you need to stand there and look at the audience and command you need to have the presence to command the room. And he was kind of like, no, you meet me where I'm at. And that was so, because I don't look at the crowd. A lot of times I stare at the ground. Anytime I see pictures posted of me on stage, I'm staring at the floor or at the ceiling. I don't like to look at the audience. It makes me very uncomfortable. And I do my best thinking looking down and to the right for some reason. That's when my brain fires on all cylinders. But to see someone who I felt was a weird guy being fully himself up there, it really gave me a lot of confidence to pursue it. And then there was also a documentary / like comedy special called The Comedians of Comedy, which was put together. Patton Oswalt put it together. It was Patton Oswalt, Zach Galifianakis, Maria Bamford, and Brian Posehn. And they would have these other people come on. And these were four, again, Patton would not mind me saying this. I've become friends with him. Like, these were weirdos. They were not doing normal stand-up. They were doing what we would call alternative stand-up. And even though I came up in clubs, club comedy versus alt comedy is very different styles, kind of. But I always was attracted to these people who are so comfortable just being like, yeah, this is who I am. It's not the cool macho guy up here trying to win over the crowd. They're like, no, they always wanted to find their people. And I think kind of my life in running and comedy has just been this pursuit of finding my people almost, whatever that means. Even being someone who's like into meditation and spirituality and Ram Dass, I would say of any mentor, Ram Dass was as big of one, and I never met him. And that's, again, just when I find people who connect with that. Like my manager, who's the best manager I've ever had in comedy, we were friends before we worked together, and we connected over a mutual love of Ram Dass and some mutual books and teachings that we liked. So like this pursuit of like these people who are so willing to be themselves and to do stuff that might not be considered like cool, but then make it look cool. Oh, I love that.
That's rad.
It makes me so happy to see someone being themselves. I'm a full believer that like suffering is grace, and like not in the means of suffering as in like an ultra runner who needs to push through these injuries, but like when suffering presents itself in your life, like don't macho your way through it. Don't push it away. Like it's as badass to sit with the pain and like really like don't give into it, but sit with it. Like that, I think that's so important. And people are so scared to suffer and to go through traumatic experiences. But I think there's a lot of beauty and a lot of free feelings on the other side.
Yeah, clearly from what you've experienced. And I appreciate you sharing it, because I think you've been through a lot, and you've seen yourself really, really through a lot too. Not just things have happened to you, but you've responded in as magnanimous a way. You know, it's really, really cool. So, well, I'm so excited to go on a trail run with you right now. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me and giving me the space to do this.
If you're enjoying Mentor Buffet, follow Voicing Change for more inspirational and truly life-affirming content from shows like Soul Boom, The Proof, Feel Better, Live More, and the Rich Roll podcast. Just go to voicingchange.media. That's voicingchange.media for a beautiful selection of productive and positive shows.